Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 195 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about MicroStrategy and option liquidity after the 10 to 1 split. I was hoping this would get a little bit better. The bid ask spreads on MSTR were pretty bad when it was 130 a share, and it made it difficult to set up credit spreads. I don't really set up a whole lot of them anymore. But I've been thinking recently that MicroStrategy is the answer to every bullish strategy. So selling covered calls and cash secured puts is somewhat bullish. It does limit upside. They got MSTY for people who like dividends and just kind of low maintenance. Let me generate some yield, doing nothing myself. And I think it's pretty easy to set it up to reinvest the dividends in more shares. So that's kind of easy mode. That's pretty cool. And there are a couple of different credit spreads that are also bullish. So you can do it so that you are receiving a credit. That would be the put credit spreads. And then you can also set one up where you are paying a debit, and that would be a debit call spread. Everything in options is kind of opposites. So if a put credit spread is bullish and you just switch over to the calls, then it's going to be, you're going to flip the credit to the debit. That would also be bullish. And so, yeah, kind of excited to see how this works. Now, the perfect day would have been yesterday, as far as Tasty Trade is concerned, to set up credit spreads, because according to their research, at 45 days to expiration is the sweet spot for when theta decay accelerates. And I should say it's the sweet spot for selling out of the money options. There are different theta graphs. If you graph theta's acceleration for at the money and out of the money options, that curve will be slightly different. So they have determined that 45 days is ideal for selling out of the money options, and put credit spreads certainly qualifies. Now the other one, I'm not so sure on, because a debit spread, I don't want the value to collapse in 45 days. I don't want theta to accelerate. So I'm not really sure when the perfect time to set up a call put a call debit spread. But if I liken it to my other kind of theory on selling options or buying options, I want to sell options for a credit 60 days and under. And generally, I sell at the money weeklies or max premium. So it does kind of make sense to me that a call debit spread, if I'm buying the option, and generally I'll buy leaps and long calls 6 months, a year, 2 years in advance. So it makes sense that I might want to at least go out 6 months on a call debit spread. So I'll take a look at that and see. But there are plenty of people who do weekly YOLOs, and liquidity might be better there. So while MicroStrategy is on a temporary dip, I mean, it's not like amazing, but it's down from what, 137, 138. Let's take a look at this. So I'm going to set this up in my smaller joint account just so that I can keep these weird options together. My got way too many freaking positions here in the main account. All right, so let's go for it. I'm going to go out to 44 days to expiration. And on Tasty Trade, you can probably just select short, vertical, short put vertical. Boom. Yep, there we go. So that's pretty cool. But the bottom line is if you're creating from scratch, you're going to sell the one that's closer to at the money because that one's going to be more expensive. And so then you'll have to buy the put that's farther out of the money because it's going to be cheaper. And if you ever forget, like, oh, I sold the 130, does that mean I have to buy the 131 or the 129? You always have to just look and say, well, which one's cheaper? If I want to sell a credit spread, then the the leg that's giving you the credit has to be bigger than the leg that you're purchasing. And so I'm just going to arrow this all the, holy shit, went a little too far on that. I'm going to arrow this up to, maybe not too far. But I might not be able to do a 100. It's probably, let's just see what happens. So generally I'll try to go to about 80% out of the money. But you can see MicroStrategy stopped selling them less than $1 apart. And so if I want to go to the 80% out of the money, I would have to risk $500. The amount that you're risking is always the distance between these two strikes. So if somebody wanted to just wager $100, they'd have to come all the way up here to 124. And this is barely out of the money. This is like a 50% chance that this would even be profitable. But let's just take a look at it. So, and you can kind of apply a Kelly criterion to this a little bit as well. I can never figure out why there's a difference here. So this says percent chance out of the money, and then this says this is what the delta is. And in general, those are supposed to be pretty similar. A lot of people will say that you can approximate the delta for the percent chance that this would actually be out of the money. And there's always some variance there. So I do go to the 80% chance out of the money. This is actually more like a 12%. As far if you go by the delta, it's about a 20% chance of being out of the money. But if you plug this into a Kelly criterion formula, you basically want to say, okay, what is the percent chance that I would lose this bet? And then you got to get paid more premium than that. Otherwise, you're basically betting that you're going to lose. So I'm going to take a look at this percent chance out of the money, but I'm also go by the delta as well. So in order to compensate for this 20% chance that I may lose, I would need to collect 20 cents for every dollar. And since this is I'm risking $500, this option would need to be worth about $100 in order to break even. And the mid price is definitely not going to get filled for that. So if this is the correct price, then this would not necessarily be considered a trade that would be worth entering into. However, if we assume that the delta is actually the correct probability, then I only need to collect $12 for every 100, which would be 60. And so in that case, this would be a decent spread to get into as long as I can sell it for 60 or more. And since this is just for shits and giggles anyway, I'm probably just going to go ahead and attempt to place this spread because I want to see how much this bid-ask spread actually screws me over for. If you look at the short leg, the bid-ask spread is 50 cents here, and for the long leg, it's $2. This is pretty ridiculous, actually. This is pretty bad. And so the combination of these two options together is showing a bid ask spread of 24 cents to, and this is flip flopping. So this isn't even a credit here. This is flip flopping between a debit and a credit. That's how bad the liquidity is here. So I may actually not even do this. Tasty Trade gives like a little star rating as well. And so the liquidity on MicroStrategy is just 2 stars. So it has not really gotten that much better after the split. Now, if this becomes way more heavily traded, I suppose that could change. But I don't want to get into this. This is not even that great to for educational purposes. Let me bump it way up down to the 50%. So in this case, this is only $100 wide, and if there's a 53% chance of being out of the money, that means I would need to collect about $50 to break even. So that's actually not bad. But again, you can still see that the bid ask spread is $1 on a spread that's only worth $1. So this is pretty bad. I had set up a couple of these, but it was probably not a great idea. Looking at this chart though, CLSK is a 4-star liquidity. Riot is 4, and HUT is only 2. I did notice that about HUT. HUT's liquidity went to shit at some point. I don't remember it being that bad. I'm gonna go with CLSK since it's a little bit more pricey than Riot, and it should be a little bit easier to generate some premiums. So again, if I click in Tasty Trade, if I click in the buy row, that's going to set up my long leg. And let's go here. And let's set up the short leg here. Let's see if there's anything that can be gotten from this. But look at the bid ask spread is pretty terrible here as well. This is not great. Yeah, I don't know if I even want to try to make this work. This is $1 wide. It's about 78%. I would want to collect at least $22. Or if delta is the way to go, I need to collect at least 14. Let's just do this. Let's just try to make this happen. So I'm going to try to get it filled for the 29 cents mid price. And I don't think there's any way in hell that that will fill. I feel like I'm going to have to walk this down big time. Oh, and I'm trading on the damn. I'm still trading on the main account. Can I cancel it? All right. Let's click and make sure we're trading in the right account this time. What was I doing? The 8 and the 9? Or 8 and 7, I mean? No, that can't be right. Why is it only $5 now? Oh, canceled. I had the 7 and the 8. All right, so even with 4-star liquidity, this bid ask spread is just absolutely trash. It's just all over the place. All right, so this doesn't work for me. Let me try and see what the liquidity is way the hell out here for put call spread. Why is the liquidity better way the hell out here? So in this case, if I flip this to long call vertical, this will generate a debit. And if I think at some point 6 months into the future, CLSK will be higher than it is now, this is the bet that I could make. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and get this going. The bid-ask spread is not terrible. So let's just try to get this filled for the mid price, which ain't going to happen. So I'll just walk this up and try to pay a little more. Try 29. In this case, the max loss is the amount that I'm paying. And the max profit would be, since this is a $100 spread, the max profit would be the remainder. So whatever you didn't pay. Okay, got a fill there. And that cost me 30 bucks. So I could double my money at some point if CLSK goes up. So let's just set that now. Set it and forget it. Let's try to close this. But I'm not really going to try to collect all of it. I will close this position for, wait, do I want to click 50% profit? Yeah, so basically just want to sell it for about approximately double. Let me put in 60 here. Good till closed. So at some point, if CLSK's price goes up enough that the value of this spread increases from 30 to 60, then it will automatically close, and then I'll have doubled my money, and I'll have only wagered $100 for the privilege. All right, let me just go to SPY, because this is how you can really, really get fills. This is how it should actually look. And how does the SPY actually look today? So SPY is recovering. So down here would have probably been the best time to sell, put credit spread. But if I arrow this all the way up to like 80% chance out of the money, in this case, this is $1 wide. And if this is the valid number, then I would want to collect, 20 bucks on this. And you can see that the IV rank on the SPY is pretty bad. So while this would fill fairly easily because the bid-ask spread is much closer, it's still not, this really isn't a winning trade to me. And you can see the delta and the 80% chance out of the money actually do match in this case. So that's weird. Maybe because the liquidity is so good. But if IV rank was like 25 or higher, closer to 50 would be better. That would be a better time to try to sell options premium. But something like this, when you see this kind of bid-ask spread, this is much, much better than this damn thing that I was looking at. So that was hopefully at least instructional on how to set these up if you're bullish, even though the liquidity was shit. Let's try one more. Let's try RIOT. On these cheap stocks, it's hard to squeeze anything out. There's hardly any premium to even be had. But let's do 6 and 5 and see if I can get anything out of here. Bid-ask spread doesn't seem that bad, but it's the same bid-ask spread that we saw on the SPY, and the SPY is hundreds of dollars a share, and RIOT is $7 a share. So this is kind of a big bid-ask spread for such a small stock. But it's a hell of a lot better than MSTR and CLSK were. But again, I would want to get about $23 out of this if this is the valid out of the money percentage. And then Delta, I would want to collect about $15 on this if I'm using Delta as a valid percent chance of winning this is concerned. So best case scenario on this, I would be looking at trying to break even. So again, I'm just not even going to bother setting this up. And this is the evaluation process that I would go through to determine, hey, should I sell a spread in one of these tickers? So that was maybe a little bit anticlimactic. We did set up one for CLSK at least. So it will be interesting to see how long it would take to double my money or to lose the $30. All right. That's it for now. Be good, Joe.